The cantina reeked of sour ale and soldered metal. Outside, crimson dust swirled in gusts across the glass dome, shielding the asteroid outpost from the vacuum. Inside, under flickering yellow lights, a war chant rumbled like distant thunder, deep-throated and guttural, rising from the corner where a group of Gorgak warlords slammed their fists on the table in rhythm. At the far end of the bar sat a man no one noticed, at first. Human. Mid-30s. Worn leather coat. Boots that had seen too many borders. A pale scar traced his jawline like a question never answered. He cradled a clear glass, swirling the ice as if he were calculating something. "Hey!" one of the warlords barked. "You deaf, Terran? Or too soft to drink with warriors?" Laughter followed, sharp and cruel. The man didn't react. He lifted his glass, took a slow sip, and glanced at his wrist. His watch was old. Outdated. Analog. A cracked dial and missing second hand gave it the look of a relic. Yet he studied it like a pilot checking re-entry coordinates. The biggest of the Gorgaks rose. His armor groaned under the weight of his bulk. Scars, real and ceremonial, covered his gray-blue skin. A ceremonial cleaver clanged against his belt. He stomped over, towering over the seated human. "I said," the Gorgak growled. "What are you doing here, ape?" The human met his gaze. Calm. Measured. Unimpressed. "Waiting," he said. "For what?" A pause. "Time." Laughter erupted again, but something in his voice, its flatness, the eerie confidence, made a few of the chuckles die off early. Behind the bar, Zara wiped down a glass with deliberate care. Her sharp eyes flicked from the Gorgak to the human and back again. She'd seen that look before. Not in soldiers. In survivors. The kind of men who didn't raise their voices because they didn't have to. "You know," the Gorgak snarled. "I was on Terra 6. We crushed your bunkers. Took your embassy. Terran diplomats cried like hatchlings." The man gave a faint smile. "You didn't win. You just buried the wrong people." The Gorgak's face twisted. He slammed a massive fist down on the man's table, cracking the surface and sending the glass skittering. "What did you say, rat?" The man didn't flinch. He simply looked at his watch again. "I said," he repeated, "you buried the wrong people." A silence fell, thick and tense. Zara reached beneath the bar, fingers brushing against a hidden stun baton. She didn't know who this man was, but she knew how quickly Gorgak tempers turned fatal. And yet the human hadn't moved. No weapon drawn. No hint of panic. Just watching. Measuring. "Maybe I'll take that toy off your wrist," the warlord snarled. "Maybe I'll shove it down your throat." The man moved. Not fast, precise. His hand shot up, palm open, stopping just shy of the Gorgak's chest. The warlord froze. A soft beep echoed from the man's wrist. "No," the human said, still calm. "We wait 10 seconds. 10 seconds for what?" the warlord sneered. The cantina lights dimmed. Outside the dome, a shadow passed over the outpost, silent and enormous. A flicker of distortion shimmered across the sky, like a ripple in glass. A cloaked ship had just dropped out of stealth, no alarms, no warning. Zara's breath caught. "That's not Gorgak tech," she whispered. "No," the human agreed, rising to his feet slowly, his voice as even as ever. "It's ours." The warlord reached for his blade, but before he could draw it, a vibration trembled through the floor. A soft thunk. Then another. Outside the cantina, black capsules, sleek, aerodynamic, landed with surgical precision. No sound, just displacement. As if the void itself made room for them. "Who the hell are you?" the warlord hissed. The man looked at him. "My name's John Keller," he said. "But you probably knew my team as Spectre Division." The color drained from the warlord's face. "That division," he began, "was erased. Redacted. Vanished," John interrupted. "But you missed a few of us." A third thunk. A ripple of static warped the air as drone units phased into visibility, surrounding the bar from the outside. Their eyelights flared red. Inside, the Gorgaks scrambled for weapons. Chaos surged. But John Keller didn't move. He looked at his watch once more. The second hand had reappeared. Tick. Zara whispered. What happens now? John's lips barely moved. War doesn't start when the bullets fly, he said. It starts when the wrong man remembers who he is. The Warlord's blade clattered to the floor. His hands trembled, not from fear, not yet, but from confusion, the kind that comes just before realization turns fatal. The name Spectre Division echoed in his head like a ghost rising from a sealed grave. The humans weren't supposed to have survivors. They were myth, war propaganda, disinformation, they'd been told. But John Keller stood right in front of him, very much alive, and very much ready. Outside, the black drones encircled the cantina, their thin appendages humming with power. No announcements. No ultimatums. Their targeting optics were already cycling through trajectories. Inside, no one moved. Zara broke the silence. You called them here? Her voice was sharp, strained, somewhere between awe and accusation. John didn't glance her way. His gaze was fixed on the Warlord. No, he said quietly. I called it. With a mechanical hiss, a sphere dropped from the ceiling like a falling star. It hovered at chest height, pulsing with a low red glow. The Warlord instinctively stepped back. Recon node, John said. Marking every Gorgak biosignature within the blast radius. You wouldn't. The Warlord spat, fists clenched. I wouldn't need to, John replied. But you shoved first. Zara leaned over the counter, whispering now. You planned this from the start. I planned for them to start it, John murmured. Across the room, a younger Gorgak made a move for his sidearm. Bad choice. The node reacted instantly, faster than instinct. A pinpoint laser seared through his wrist, severing tendon and steel. He screamed, collapsing in a heap. The drones didn't fire. They didn't have to. Panic spread like a stain across the Warlord's face. He turned to the others. Stand down, he barked. But order had already crumbled. Chairs toppled. Patrons dove behind booths. The cantina's ancient walls creaked under the weight of unseen machinery burrowing beneath the foundation. Then came the hum. Low. Rhythmic. Deep enough to vibrate ribs. Zara's eyes widened. That's not Terran. That's ancient, John finished. This place was built on ruins. Gorgaks never noticed. Humans did. He reached into his coat, withdrawing a triangular shard the size of a thumb. Its etched surface glowed faint blue, pulsing in sync with the hum. This outpost wasn't always a bar, he continued. It was once a fail-safe vault for a lost civilization. The kind of vault that activates when exposed to the right key. You brought a war here? Zara snapped. No, John said, leveling his gaze at the Warlord. They did. I just brought a mirror. The Gorgak lunged, clumsy, desperate. John didn't flinch. He pivoted, caught the Warlord's wrist, and drove his elbow into the creature's throat with mechanical precision. The Warlord staggered, gasping. John pressed the shard to the wall. The hum stopped. For a moment there was silence, then the wall shimmered, faded, and dissolved, revealing an ancient corridor wrapped in concentric rings of light. Geometric runes scrolled across invisible surfaces like liquid circuitry. John stepped aside. Tell your people, he said to the gasping Warlord. This isn't about revenge. This is a message. The Spectres never died. We adapted. We learned. You'll be hunted, the Warlord rasped. John crouched down beside him. You already did, he whispered. You just failed. Zara watched from behind the bar, her expression unreadable. And what happens now? She asked. John stood slowly. Now, he said. Now I take back what you thought you buried. He stepped into the corridor. But before the doorway sealed, he turned to Zara. Come with me. She blinked. Why? You don't belong here, he said. Half of you's always been watching from the edge. You need me? No, he said simply. But you deserve to know the truth. The warlord groaned behind her. Drones moved into position, herding him and his broken entourage out of the cantina. Zara hesitated for only a breath. Then she vaulted over the bar and followed him in. The corridor pulsed with a faint bioluminescent glow, casting shifting patterns across the worn walls. The air was thicker here, older somehow, charged with static and something else Zara couldn't name. It wasn't just history embedded in the stone. It was memory. She followed John in silence, her steps echoing behind his slower, more deliberate pace. The tunnel branched like roots beneath the outposts, far deeper than she thought possible. No Gorgak scanner had ever picked this up. But the humans had, John had. How long have you known this was here? She asked finally, voice low. For years, John said. Took that long to decrypt what little we had left from the Xanthian archive. They built vaults like this one on 6 frontier asteroids. Only this one survived the collapse. Zara frowned. You think there's something inside that can help you? John didn't answer right away. Instead, he stopped before a sealed archway. Intricate symbols spiraled outward from the center like a frozen ripple. He placed the shard into a recessed slot. A resonant chime filled the space. I'm not looking for help, he said. I'm looking for a message. The doorway split open silently, revealing a chamber unlike anything Zara had seen. Crystalline structures rose from the floor like frozen lightning bolts. In the center, a pedestal hovered, suspended by invisible force. Upon it sat a cube, metallic, ancient, and softly humming with energy. John approached slowly. This was their failsafe. What is it? Zara breathed. Proof, he said, of what happened when the Gorgaks first arrived in this system. Before humans ever stepped foot out here. He reached out and touched the cube. Instantly, the chamber darkened. Holographic projections burst to life, images of war, of fire raining from orbit, of cities reduced to ash. But the attackers weren't human. They were Gorgak. Except, different. Sleeker. Less brute force. More precision. These are the old clans, Zara whispered, stunned. The ones the current warlords deny ever existed. Because the truth doesn't serve their empire, John said. Those clans didn't conquer, they allied. They built with the Xanthians. Then something changed. A civil schism. Records wiped. History rewritten. The holograms flickered, revealing something even more startling. Humans. Or close. Proto-humanids standing side by side with both factions. Builders, not soldiers. Zara turned to John, voice sharper now. You knew this would destabilize the Gorgak power base. That's why you brought this here. This isn't just about revenge. It's political warfare. John nodded. Terran High Command didn't authorize this. Spectre Division went dark after the treaty was signed. But treaties mean nothing if the lies beneath them fester. She studied him closely. You're not just trying to strike back. You're trying to end it. I'm trying to make them fracture from the inside. And this, he tapped the cube, is the chisel. Before she could respond, the lights dimmed further. The floor trembled. A low-frequency signal buzzed through the air, scrambling her implants. She staggered. John's eyes narrowed. They found us. Outside the vault, metal clanged, not like doors, but like limbs. Then came a voice, deep and filtered through static. Terran operative. You have tampered with a sealed archive. Surrender the artifact and exit, or we will collapse the structure. Who the hell is that? Zara asked. Not Gorgak, John said, stepping away from the cube. That's Praetorian. The old security AI the Xanthians left behind. The wall behind them shimmered. 3 silhouettes emerged, bipedal machines, each 8 feet tall, armored in matte obsidian. They moved with the eerie smoothness of dancers and the weight of tanks. You were warned, one said, and raised a plasma lance. John raised both hands. We're not here to steal, just to understand. You are unauthorized lifeforms. You triggered the failsafe. Accessing your neural ID. A pause. John Keller. Spectre Division. Mission Classification, Omega Contingency. Status, Ghost Directive, approved. The lances dropped. The constructs lowered to one knee. Sarah blinked. What the hell just happened? John looked as surprised as she did. I didn't think any of the old command protocols still worked. He stepped forward. I need full archive access. Spread the truth. Activate system-wide broadcast across the outpost net. The lead Praetorian responded in perfect cadence. Acknowledged. Warning, hostile response probability, 98%. Gorgak fleet inbound. How long? Sarah asked. The wall behind them displayed a real-time projection. Multiple red signatures were closing in. Fast. 20 minutes, John said grimly. And what now? He picked up the cube. Now we light the match. The sky above the asteroid outpost fractured like glass. From orbit, Gorgak warships emerged, black slabs of menace, bristling with artillery. Ion drives screamed through the upper atmosphere, turning red against friction. A dozen ships descended with surgical precision, converging on the coordinates John had so publicly broadcasted. Inside the ancient vault, time was bleeding fast. Zara adjusted her grip on a thermal disruptor handed to her by the Praetorians. She wasn't a soldier, but adrenaline sharpened her senses. Beside her, John slid the cube into a console embedded in the crystalline wall. The chamber vibrated in response. Light fractured along the edges, and the floor lit up with a massive glyph that pulsed like a heartbeat. Transmission cycle initialized, the AI announced. Network penetration successful. Uploading primary record to all public channels. Projecting into Gorgak military mesh in 15 seconds. John exhaled through his nose. This is going to make them desperate. They already brought a fleet, Sarah muttered. What's worse than that? John looked at her, a flicker of something heavy behind his eyes. Suicide orders. They'd rather destroy the truth than lose control. Above them, the cantina-turned battlefield lit up with gunfire. Drones engaged incoming Gorgak strike teams, weaving between columns and outcroppings. The outer rim of the asteroid quaked under kinetic bombardments. Spectre drones fired in elegant arcs, methodical and unrelenting. Zara turned as the vault door rumbled open. A Gorgak commander entered, flanked by elite troopers in jet-black armor. His weapon was ceremonial, but deadly, an energy axe sparking with plasma. His gaze locked on John with instant recognition. You are the heretic, he said, voice guttural. The ghost who dares rewrite history. John stepped forward. No. I'm the witness you forgot to bury. The warlord snarled and raised his axe, but John didn't flinch. Every soldier in your fleet just got the same transmission. Every civilian, too. They saw what your empire did. They saw the alliances you shattered and the lies you told. You can kill me, but you won't erase the truth again. The warlord charged. John pivoted, ducked beneath the arc of the axe, and slammed a short-range sonic charge into the Gorgak's chest. The blast sent him flying, armor cracked and systems shorted. Zara fired over John's shoulder, dropping one of the escorts before it reached the console. The chamber erupted into chaos. The Praetorians moved like shadows, silent but lethal. Their weapons were integrated into their limbs, no wasted motion. They cut through the remaining guards with surgical precision. John retrieved the cube. The upload's complete. We hold them here long enough, and the Gorgak Empire fractures on its own. Zara grabbed his arm. And what if they glassed the whole asteroid? He glanced at the ceiling. That's why I called in the Arcborn. The what? Before he could answer, the walls trembled again, but this time, it wasn't the enemy. The asteroid's crust split open along fault lines that hadn't existed minutes ago. From the chasm rose a ship unlike anything Zara had ever imagined, sleek, smooth, seamless. It pulsed with energy not yet named by any modern science. Xanthian. Alive. John smiled faintly. They left behind more than ruins. The Ark-borne ship linked with the vault's architecture. Energy surged through the structure, creating a dome of translucent shielding around the outpost. The first volley from orbit struck it, and fizzled into harmless light. The Gorgak commander, coughing blood, looked up from the ground. You think you've won? Truth doesn't matter. Power decides who writes history. John stepped over him. Then let's rewrite it. He tossed the beacon into the corner. It blinked once, then detonated. The vault collapsed behind them as John and Zara sprinted for the extraction tunnel. Dust and heat chased them as the Praetorians covered their retreat. Outside, the remaining Spectre drones formed a tight perimeter. One of them opened a hatch on a cloak drop craft. John shoved the cube into the vessel's interface port. The ship responded with a soft tone. Data sync complete. Routing to open channels. Terran resistance factions across 5 sectors now linked. Zara leaned against the wall, breathing hard. You just started a war. No, John said, climbing into the pilot's seat. I just unmasked one. Behind them, the Gorgak warships hesitated. Reports flooded their channels. Mutinies. Border uprisings. Civil commanders refusing orders. The Empire wasn't breaking, it was shattering. Zara dropped into the co-pilot chair. So where do we go now? John didn't look back. We go where the Empire forgot to look, every colony they thought was crushed. Every voice they silenced. And we remind them, we remember. As the Ark-borne vessel lifted into the stars, the fractured watch on John's wrist blinked once. The second hand, long frozen, ticked forward. Not by design. By choice.